Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I want to highlight Dynamic Forces real quick. Hop on over to Dynamic Forces. They got great collectibles and comics available for sale, signed books, remarked books, sketches, all that kind of stuff, right? But I do want to point out that right now, they got some really nice exclusive limited edition covers to Stray Dogs Dog Days issue number 1, including this fantastic Evil Dead 2 movie poster homage cover that I absolutely love. You can get signed copies, you can get non-signed copies. Check them all out at dynamicforces.com at the link in the description below or right up here in the video. And of course, remember to use the code Robbie at your cart. You'll save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week is Red Room's Trigger Warnings, issue number 2 from Fantagraphics. This is by Ed Piscor, and I love this book. I've covered this book many times here on the channel, and let me reiterate this. This is not going to be for everybody. This is dealing with what you might call torture porn, right? It's about murder on the dark web for fun and profit. The Red Room, it's on the dark web. It's live streamed webcam killings, like snuff films, right? And this book is about the people who watch this stuff, the people trying to find out about this stuff, the people who create this stuff, and everything in between. Each story is its own self-contained issue, and Ed Piscor's artwork just keeps leveling up. The artwork, the technical craft displayed here in the pages of Red Room is phenomenal. And then the single issue story element to it, which does provide this thread and an overall overarching narrative. So that's there too. In this one, you get the focus on these characters called the Pumpkins. They're like these two kids that kind of get caught up in this world of the Red Rooms, and they create these personas, and it's their story. And I loved it because so many times I thought I knew where the story was going, but by the end of it, I didn't. And it hit like an EC comic from back in the day does. Has great twists going all the way throughout, including the very, very end of the book. I absolutely loved it. Red Room, Trigger Warnings, issue number 2 from Ed Piscor. I got the Jim Rugg variant right there. Charlie Brown homage. Come on. That's awesome. This book is gnarly. It's vicious. It's not going to be for everybody, but it's awesome. Okay, let's jump over to Marvel Comics. We got X-Men Red, issue number 1. I have not been looking forward to any of these X-Men relaunches. I thought Immortal X-Men number 1 was okay, but kind of overstuffed. And I haven't been able to really catch the vibe on 10 Deaths and 10 Lives or anything going on. In fact, X-Force is back this week, and Marauders is back this week. And I was like, I'm not going to check them out. But I checked out X-Men Red, and I liked it. I liked X-Men Red number 1. I liked it a lot. When it first started, I wasn't quite into it, but the more that this book goes on, it starts off firmly rooted in everything I'm not liking about the current X books. And then by the end of it, it almost sheds all of that, and it becomes something new and different. Maybe not completely new and different, but just new and different enough to make me excited. I like the work being done with Storm here, Sunspot, Magneto. Has some really nice moments here with this dude that he meets on Araco, Mars, whatever you want to call it. I really like this book. I thought it was cool. Took my expectations, seemed like it was going to live up to them, then it shed those. So I have herefore shed my expectations on this book. I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops because I liked the personalities involved. I liked the way the personalities involved were handled, and the artwork is pretty solid. It's Caselli. The artwork in this book is pretty freaking cool. I really like this book. Spotlight on Storm, Spotlight on Sunspot, Magneto, and more. I was very impressed with that. Then we got Spider-Punk issue number 1. Wasn't really feeling this one. First of all, really bad paper stock. Like, really bad. Like, again. Now, the ink isn't as bad on this paper stock as some of those issues 2 weeks ago. But this is still really poor quality paper stock, and it's just shameful. Just shameful. What about the book? It's alright. It's like, okay, I get it. He's Spider-Punk. they kind of overdo it with all the punk references. Doesn't quite work for me. I couldn't really get that into the story. The artwork had moments where it seemed cool and wanted to do something different, but all in all, it just didn't kind of work out for me. So Spider-Punk #1 wasn't quite for me. Then we got Devil's Reign, issue #6. This is the final issue of Devil's Reign. So now I can view it as an event as a whole. And I say it's an unnecessary, unneeded event. It's an interesting story. The way it all plays out and ends here, it truly is a Daredevil Kingpin story. And I like this ending of this story. I liked it. I liked it a lot. But as an event, it was not needed. You didn't need to make it so big, such a widespread thing, a big event. This should have just been the next 6 issues of Daredevil, and it would have been fine. I get it. They boosted up their sales. They did all of that jazz. But that being said, it does not work as an event. But as the Daredevil Wilson Fisk story, I really like this. And I love the setup for what's to come in the pages of Daredevil when it relaunches with a new #1. This was awesome. I think that's coming in June, and I'm excited for it. Then we got Deadpool Bad Blood issue #1 by Rob Liefeld. So this is not anything new, but there was a Deadpool graphic novel called Bad Blood that Rob Liefeld, Chad Sims, Chad Bowers, I think. Are they both Chads? Chris and Chad. Okay, there you go. That's different. But Deadpool Bad Blood, this is basically the graphic novel split up into a 4-issue miniseries. A lot of people probably didn't take a chance on a $25 graphic novel hardcover, so they're putting it out as a series, and I rather liked it. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, people have their opinions about Rob Liefeld. Certain things about the energy he brings, I really enjoyed. There was some of that in here in the pages of Deadpool Bad Blood that I enjoyed. It's a simple story. It doesn't overreach or stretch too far. It does exactly what it's trying to do, and it's Rob Liefeld doing Rob Liefeld. So if you want to see Rob Liefeld doing Rob Liefeld and you haven't read that, check it out. Then we got Moon Knight issue #10. I've been loving this book. The MCU series is on Disney Plus right now, so they should be really focused in on making this a good book, and they are. Jed MacKay is doing a great job of telling these self-contained, one-and-done stories that all fit into an ongoing thread, and that's absolutely awesome. It's something that comic books used to do often, and a lot of comic books still do, but sometimes they just don't quite balance it quite as well as Jed MacKay is doing in the pages of Moon Knight. Cappuccino's artwork, I liked it in this issue, but it did feel like something was lacking. It still had that energy, but it lacked some precision or some detail or something. That being said, the story was awesome. This one took me for a loop. Self-contained story as a part of an overall connective tissue. I loved it. Moon Knight still slaps. So there you go. Then we got Strange, issue #2. This also from Jed MacKay. We got Ferreira on the artwork. I didn't really like the first issue, and I didn't really like the second issue. I thought the artwork in the second issue was a little bit better, but it still had some kind of wonky looking moments. Story-wise, it's just not grabbing me, and Jed MacKay's rendition of Clea is just not grabbing me. I may give this another issue or two, but as of right now, 2 issues in, I'm not really digging it. I think Jed MacKay is a very talented writer, but there's something about this character and this arc in particular, and the whole thrust of this book is that she is now the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth and the Dark Dimension, and I think they're trying to build into some kind of conflict between those powers. They're building into that, and that's interesting enough, but the whole idea of her just, my goal is to bring Strange back, the way she's acting kind of petulant about it just doesn't quite work for me. So 2 issues in, Strange is kind of weak in my opinion. Then we got She-Hulk issue #3. 3 issues in, I'm still enjoying this series. All that happens in this series though in this issue is a series of like 3 or 4 discussions. It's just people talking, eating pizza, talking about Jack of all trades, Jack of hearts. Whoa, do you see me? I got back there though. Anyway, Jack of Hearts, it's kind of like a mystery. How is he back? They're just talking about it. But the dialogue is good. The art's pretty decent. The coloring pops. It wasn't boring, but it was just people talking about Jack of Hearts. There you go. Then we got Fantastic Four, issue #42, continuing the Reckoning War. This was an alright issue. They've been building up to this whole thing where, like, Ben is supposed to die by Reed's hand, or Reed dies by Ben's hand or something, so they've been building up to this big moment, and this was just such a tease, and I just hate it when they do stuff like that. The issue was threaded to like build up to this highly tensified moment, and then it's cheap. It's cheap. I didn't really like it, you know. Overall, though, I am liking the story of the Reckoning War, this race of people that were given gifts by the Watchers, and they have dominated the universe. I love the idea that there's like 90% of the, or 10% of the universe was slain away, 90%, something like that, and there's like the dead zone. Some really interesting cosmic type stuff being played with here, some interesting concepts. But man, this was a gimmicky thing, and I didn't really like that. Over at DC, we got Batman Beyond Neo Year, issue number 1. I was lost reading this one, okay? So apparently this is building up from previous Batman Beyond series, but in particular, there was an Batman Urban Legends, Batman Beyond story in there, and it leads right into this. So I read this, and I was kind of confused. They tried to do a good job of catching you up, but it didn't quite like solidify itself for me, but I thought it was all right. The artwork was solid. The scripting was decent enough, but I just kind of found myself confused on that one. Then we got Batman 122. This is the next part of the Shadow War. Kicked off last week with Joshua Williamson on Shadow War Alpha. And so now we got the second part of the story. It's going to continue into Deathstroke and into Robin. And they all are one story. It's not like cheesy little tie-ins that are like, they're trying to like mess you up and trying to pull the wool over your eyes. This literally is just the second part. So if you like that story, and I've been digging it, you might want to jump into this one. Howard Porter doing some cool stuff with the artwork. The way that Howard Porter does Batman, there were elements in here where it was taking me back to those Grant Morrison JLA days, and it was like I was 15 again. But Batman 122, it was a pretty solid follow-up. I loved Shadow War Alpha. This one, a little bit of a step down, but just because all the big stuff happens in that first issue, and now we're moving through. But I love some of the work being done here with the relationship between Damian, Bruce, and Talia. That's great stuff. Batman 122, thought it was pretty solid. Batman Killing Time, issue number 2, aggravated the hell out of me. 100%. Once again, you got David Marquez, an incredibly talented, capable artist, delivering really good work, and Tom King just wants to put as many words on top of it as possible. I don't mind verbosity in my comic books. I don't mind that if it has a flow. In order to have a flow, the words, the text on the page has to work in concert with the artwork to provide a flow, to provide a pace, if you will, right? That Tom King seems to not care about that, and he's overusing the words. He's literally telling you what's clearly seen in the panel. This ain't Stan Lee days anymore, buddy, and you're not writing that type of book. That being said, it's all over the place. It's not connecting. It seems like this is going to be something rather simple, but the structure, let's get the structure as complex as possible to kind of hide that. You know how people will like, artists will be accused of doing too much hatching or too much shadow work to hide things they don't want to draw or mistakes they made? Does Tom King do that with words? I don't know. One Star Squadron, issue number 5, the penultimate issue. I like this book. It's quirky, satirical take on C and D-list superheroes through the eyes of like an office-type approach, right? So there's this business called Heroes for Hire. It's not Heroes for Hire. Obviously, that's Marvel, but it's something. Heroes for... I don't even remember what it's called, but it doesn't matter. Because Red Tornado's in charge of it, and he's dealing with being a business manager and all the stuff from on top, and dealing with all the employees. Somebody has a grudge against here, possibly Power Girl, who was just sacked from her job. She was trying to actually take Red Tornado's job, and it actually backfired on her. Anyway, satirical, funny, amusing, saying some stuff, making some commentary, but doing it in a very tongue-in-cheek type way, and still honoring the legacy of certain heroes. So I really like this one, plus I had a nice twist to it. So I thought that was cool. Then we have Wonder Woman, the Historia, the Amazons, issue number 2. I was initially disappointed when I first grabbed this, realized Phil Jimenez is not doing the artwork here. It's going to be a different artist on each book. I loved what Phil Jimenez did on book 1. But now we're on book 2, and it's the story of how Hippolyta kind of becomes an Amazon. And I really like some of these ideas. I haven't read as much Wonder Woman as other people that I know, but it's interesting to me to see all these different female deities, right, give different blessings to different tribes of the Amazons. But how does the Amazon tribe that we know, led by Hippolyta, how does that come about? This is an interesting take on it. I do appreciate it. Kelly Sue DeConnick doing some Kelly Sue DeConnick type stuff in the scripting, but the artwork, Gene Ha. Okay, I was disappointed Phil Jimenez is not here, but then you're giving me Gene Ha, and Gene Ha not trying to replicate what was done in the first book, but doing his own thing. Super great artist, super well done job, utilizing everything about the format to make it pop, to make it work. Great quality paper. Just, I loved it. I actually liked it. When I first read this, I was like rolling my eyes. I was like, And then I just got into it, sank into the couch, kind of enjoyed it. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image, we have Little Monsters, issue number 2. This is from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Loved the second issue. I thought the first issue was pretty cool. It was very thin on story, but the artwork was great. Dustin Nguyen's doing a black and white type thing with a lot of grayscale, so he's using a lot of like screen tone and stuff like that, like digitized screen tone, maybe. I'm not 100% certain, but it seems like it's digitized screen tone, but he's using it to great effect. I really love the artwork here. It's about kid vampires. They're like on their own in the city. They start exploring out further, trying to figure things out, right? The first issue was the briefest and breeziest of setups, but the artwork was really cool, had me intrigued to come back, plus I trust Lemire and Nguyen. They've earned that trust with their work, especially together. Then I got to issue number 2, and I loved it. This is where we get the hook, the bit of the story that kind of turns it and really kind of got me excited, and I'm pumped. I really like this book. I love the artwork. I like the slow burn character build they were doing, and then just bam, a moment that just changes everything. And then actually referencing that in the story. I loved it. Little Monsters 2 to me really kicked it up. In fact, 1 and 2 probably should have been the first issue. Would have really carried on in some momentum, but that was really cool. Then we got Firepower, issue number 19. Firepower is back. I could not be happier. So this is straight up, it's easy to say it's like Robert Kirkman's version of Iron Fist, but it has gone so far beyond that story in its own world building, its own lore and myth building, and I'm loving this book, and it really has gone super crazy, super quick. If you think that only 18 issues plus the Prelude trade paperback, so there's 4 trade paperbacks leading up to this point, we are in the thick of it. There is a dragon out there ravaging the earth right now, and this family who's kind of just put together in this crazy quest because the dad is like this, he's the prophesized one who's going to end evil and all that kind of stuff. Well, the shit has all hit the fan. We get introduced to a new character here. Great silent sequences of action. Great moments of actual drama that feels real, not just a bunch of talking heads, and amazing artwork by Chris Samney, and probably some of Matt Wilson's best coloring on this series in particular yet. And Russ Wooten, the letterer, that all comes together. Firepower is a quick, fast, action-packed book, and if you have not read that, that is one of Image's best books. New Masters is here with issue number 3, and I'm still digging it. This book has a lot of promise. It's got a lot of cool concepts and an interesting world that's being developed there, but they're not quite getting me into the journey of the characters. They are taking these different characters. I see it. They're bringing them together. There's the threads, but there's just some spark missing between me as the reader and the character. I'm just missing something. There's some interesting concepts. I like the gist of the story, but something's just not bringing it all together and connecting it with me. I may stick this out for a couple more issues, but New Masters number 3, I'm still digging it, but as much as I was impressed with issue number 1, 2, and 3 have kind of lost me just a little bit. Then we have The Scorched issue number 4, Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee homage. That's right, he's doing all 4 damn of these covers, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. First of all, the artwork in Scorched number 4 was some of the best on the series yet. There's some really great moments. There's some really interesting concepts developed here. I don't know if they've been developed in Spawn books before, because I've only read the first 100, and then like from 298 till today. But the idea of like using like, I know they're like overkill's a thing, but using like mechanical spiritual technology or something. Anyway, really cool concepts here, interesting ideas. It's cheesy, it's ridiculous, it's 90s vibe of comic books come back to life. And if you like that stuff, you'll like this. Scorch number 4, perfect for Spawn fans, and I'm enjoying it. From Aftershock Comics, we have The Ocean Will Take Us, issue number 1, written by Rich Douek, who was the writer of Road of Bones, Wailing Blade, Sea of Sorrows, some absolute PCP favorites, and I really liked this book. It's kind of got that rich vibe that we're used to. It's horror. It's going into it. It's doing its thing, but it's got a very slow build, and it almost, when you look at the artwork, it almost seems like it's a young adult book, or like it's a kid's book or something. It's not a kid's book at all, but it's really cool. So it's about this swim team that are taking some kind of mysterious substance, which has given them the edge. And of course, the most preppy and popular kid on the swim team is a bully to the new kid at school. So it's got some of those kind of cliches, but the way Rich works with it, it flows really well. I love the dialogue. It works. There's a reference to a horror fest in here. PCP does a horror fest, and I loved that. I thought that was super cool. So I really like the book. The art is very bright and poppy, and it almost feels like a Rich Douek horror sci-fi type story should be darker, you know, because we're used to seeing him work with like Alex Cormack, for instance, right? But it kind of works for this because it's got that swim team setting, and it's all in the daytime and in the bright. And I just got done watching Midsummer, so I'm all about, aside from Midsummer and the first bit of Halloween, like what are some more, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, what are some more, what are some good horror movies that take place like majority in the daytime? Like, that's really interesting to me. That happens here. I like it. It doesn't quite get, I think, maybe fully enough to hook people in, but I really like this. I thought it had a nice flow, and it does remind me of an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where the swim team turned into sea creatures. So I wonder if that's where we're going with that. That'd be interesting. The Joneses is here from AWA Upshot Comic. This is written by Michael Morisi. It's got artwork by Alessandro Vitti. I like the artwork, and I kind of like the story. I thought it was good. I'm a big fan of Michael Morisi's work, so I was excited to pick this one up. It is set in that Reborns universe that J. Michael Straczynski started with the Resistance. It doesn't matter if you've read any of that stuff. It lets you know what's going on in this book, that superheroes exist. People are trying to figure out how to deal with it. This is done in a suburban, familial kind of way. It's almost like Incredibles meets Fantastic Four meets AWA meets This World meets Rising Stars meets Heroes. Right? So that's a good way to kind of put it, but I did like it. So you're introduced to these characters. They're a family. They all have powers, but they're trying to keep it on the DL, but that ain't going to last for long, and you know why. So The Joneses number 1. It's a really weird cover, but I really liked the issue. I thought it was cool. From Vault Comics, we have West of Sundown, issue number 1, a vampire western. A vampire western that's written by Tim Seeley and Aaron Campbell, and artwork by Jim Terry, colors by Triona Farrell, Crank on the lettering. I really like this book. I liked this book a lot. So this is about a vampire. She's got a familiar. She's in New York. She's got hunters attacking her. They burn down the place where she's staying, including the earth that she has to sleep in. Vampires have to sleep and return to the soil from which they were born. Every so often at sundown, and hers gets all messed up, so they have to take the trip out west to where she's from. So it's really cool. It's got those like East Coast fancy going off into the old West, and it's got a great vibe to it. I really liked it. I loved the artwork too. I thought the artwork was super solid. It had a nice flow to it. The coloring gave it texture. The line work was great. The inking. I really liked this book. I thought it was cool. If you like vampire stories, this is one of the better ones I've read in a little bit. Well, Little Monsters is also a vampire story. So there you go. Then we have Nottingham. It's back with issue number 6. Yes, issue number 6, kicking off the second arc of Nottingham. It's kind of like the Robin Hood story, but Robin Hood's painted as the villain, and the sheriff of Nottingham's kind of like the good guy, and Marion's even worser of a villain, and they're just continuing the story here. So basically, in here, somebody, I think the Holy Roman Empire has kidnapped King Richard, the Lionheart, and so they are they got a big ransom, and so Prince John is sending a ransom, so he's put the Sheriff of Nottingham in charge of taking the ransom there, but he also has this plan that they're going to go and steal the money because he just wants it to seem like he's trying to pay the ransom for his brother, when really he wants to still take the money and leave his brother to rot so that he can rule. And Nottingham, the Sheriff of Nottingham, is the one who's taking this money there, and then Robin Hood gets involved, Marion gets involved. If you liked Nottingham before, you're going to like it again. I like the setup for this arc. I've liked this book. I like the artwork. Nottingham. There you go. Then we have Alice Ever After #1. This is a new one from Boom Studios, written by Dan Panosian, with artwork by Giorgio Spagliata and Fabiano Mascolo. Sorry if I butchered that. And Dan Panosian's doing some of the artwork here too. I liked this book. It's an interesting kind of vibe and take on the Alice story. So Alice is older now, and she's addicted to drugs. So she's got this bad reputation. She's like, they try to keep everything on the DL because her family's like, doesn't want people like doesn't want a disgrace in their family or something like that, but she takes drugs. She's got a drug dealer. These drugs send her back to Wonderland. That's the only place where she seems happy there, but it had a nice kind of vibe and flow all the way through it. I liked the artwork. I liked the coloring. This was a book that was rather verbose, but it worked with the story, with the pacing. It had enough bits where it wasn't. It leaned into the artwork. It leaned into that story. I liked it a lot. I did. I really did. I won't tell you the ending, but the ending's even crazier. I just reminded myself of the ending. So yeah, it's Alice. She's a little bit older. She's addicted to drugs because the drugs take her to Wonderland. There you go. There you go. Then we have Project Superpowers, Fractured States, issue #1 from Dynamite. When I was on the show Monday night with the fellas from Dynamite, I asked John, if I've never read Project Superpowers, can I jump into this? He told me he thought I could. And I did, and I liked it. So Project Superpowers, from what I understand, is Alex Ross and a few others spearheading this project of taking these public domain characters and creating a shared universe for them over at Dynamite. And I liked this. So this is about like a very Captain America-centric hero called the Flag. He gets straight up murked in the first bit of this issue, but it appears like he's either been sent to another reality or flung into the future. So things are different than he thinks they should be and wild, but I had fun just kind of going through it. It was a breezy read. It didn't take itself necessarily too seriously, but at the same time, it still had a little bit of weight to it, so I liked it. Project Superpowers Fractured States, might have to jump into some of those. Then Dynamite Never Dies 2, Tony Fleece, great homage cover here. That's Plan 9 from Outer Space, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain that's Plan 9 from Outer Space. I really liked this book. I thought the artwork was cool. What this is, and this is like the third or fourth book of this whole series, is it's a zombie plague that's going across all these different properties that Dynamite has or has worked on. Like, I think Army of Darkness was in the last one, but in this one it's focused mostly on Tarzan. He's been flung to Mars, so he's dealing with the Martian or with the zombie John Carter, and Vampirella and Red Sonja are like part of this team hunting these zombies across the multiverse, but I like it. It's got this fun kind of vibe to it. The artwork is pretty solid, and those Tony Fleece covers are dope. Then we got Apache Delivery Service here with issue #4. This is the final issue. Matt Kent, Tyler Jenkins, Hillary Jenkins. I've liked this book. It's probably not going to be to everybody's taste, but I really liked it. I like the artwork. It's different. It's weird. It's out there, but it kind of fits this kind of mood, I think, for this story. The Apache Delivery Service is about this Native American who's in Vietnam. He's not respected by his people. He's not even... They call him the Apache Delivery Service. He's not even Apache, right? But he winds up meeting this like murderous, evil dude in the jungles of Vietnam who knows where this treasure is, and he goes along with him. And I really liked the ending. I thought the ending, because I was like, how are they going to like really wrap and deliver this with some weight at the end in just 4 issues while I was reading this along? But Matt Kent and the Jenkins, they do that. They do that 100%. So I liked the book. I thought it was pretty solid. Then from IDW, we have The Rocketeer, The Great Race, issue #1, celebrating the 40th anniversary of The Rocketeer, I believe. Is that from the movie or the comic? 40 years ago. Oh, that's definitely the comic. Whew, you're not that old yet, Robbie. Okay. The Rocketeer. Anyway, this one was all right. It was written by Stephen Mooney. I think Lynn O'Grady is there on the artwork. It's all right. The basic premise of this one is that the Rocketeers decide to finally call it quits and live a life with Betty with no danger. But in order to do so, there's this thing called the Great Race, and he's going to get paid a lot of money to go to Paris and partake in this like test pilot thing for this whatever, right? So it's kind of like that thing, and I don't know. I think if you want to read some Rocketeer stuff, just go read the original Dave Stevens stuff. But if you are a huge Rocketeer fan and you're just itching for it, check this out. It's got decent artwork. It's all right. Then we got the Sumerian Hour of the Dragon, issue number 2. I found out it's going to be a 4-issue series, and I'm digging it. I love the artwork in this book. This artwork is so amazing. I think I was watching Damien over at Sleepy Reader 666 review the previous issue and said that obviously this is kind of adapted from a European comic where it was probably published in a bigger magazine size. That would be awesome to see because it would really allow the details of this really awesome artwork and paint style to come across. But these are Conan stories that are done over in Europe, and Ablaze publishes them. They can't call it Conan on the title, so they just call it the Sumerian. But they've all been pretty good, and this has been a pretty solid one. That art is fantastic. And apparently this is based on one of the novels, Conan I don't remember what it was. Damien was talking about it. I've never read any of the Conan the novels, but one of my favorite things about these Ablaze Sumerian books is in the back, they print the original text that the stories are based on. So if you have a full collection of these, eventually I guess you'll have a full collection of the Robert E. Howard Conan stuff. All right, from Behemoth, we got Stargirl, issue number 1. Stargirl, that's a DC property. How do you get away with that? Take out the vowels. Oh, okay. Cool idea. Stargirl, this is an $8, really thick, nicely put together, wonderful colors, psychedelic, cool, black light looking. Story-wise, it just wasn't quite capturing me. It's trying to set up these different, there's like, I don't know, there's like the Moon Gang and the Stargirls. And I just, at a certain point, I just couldn't tell who was who anymore. And they all have their own hair color or paint on their face or something. It's kind of like, I don't know, but I got really lost in the story and forgot even what was going on or who was who. But I did like the coloring in that book. And speaking of Behemoth, we got Heavy Metal Drummer here with issue number 3. Happy to report that I love this book. Still love this book in issue number 3. It's wild, it's weird, it's wacky. It's about this race of these aliens, these like reptilian-looking aliens that come to Earth. They infect rats, right? They go into the sewers, they infect the rats infect cats, the cats infect cat ladies, so these old cat ladies turn into like youthful sex workers and then infect men and take their seed and pump out other bits, and it's this whole repeating cycle of rebirth and life. It's the circle of life. But it gets really wild, psychedelic, and gnarly. And there is a heavy metal drummer who has been contacted by some kind of cosmic force who speaks to him, takes him on all kinds of wild trips and stuff like that. And he is the one who is now going to find these hidden reptilians and behead them and kill them. Meanwhile, we got detectives kind of looking for him too, because they think it's a serial killer. Then we get a new iteration here. Look at this artwork's cool. It's wild, great colors, psychedelic, weird, wild type stuff. So there you go. That's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Heavy Metal Drummer was dope. The Sumerian's definitely worth it if you're a Conan fan. I haven't checked that out. Patchy Delivery Service had a pretty solid ending. Alice Ever After, I like that. Nottingham is back. West of Sundown, a really great vampire western. The Joneses is all right. Scorched is cool. The Ocean Will Take Us. I like that book. I think it has a lot of promise. Firepower is one of the best books at Image. So is Little Monsters. The second issue really kicked it up. I really liked Wonder Woman Historia. I thought that was solid and dope. I hated Batman Killing Time, but I liked Batman. I thought Batman Beyond was just a bit confusing. And then, of course, we got Moon Knight. That was awesome. Devil's Reign had a really cool end. Shouldn't have been an event, though. Fantastic Four, that was a cheap trick. She-Hulk, not bad for just people talking. X-Men Red really surprised me. Spider-Punk, whatever. But it's all about Red Room, trigger warnings, issue number 2, that Jim Rugg variant, that Piscor cover is great too. Also, a little bit of use of color in this book, and I like that Ed's experimenting with color in these last couple issues, but he's really leveling up the storytelling and the innovation in the second volume of Red Room. So that's what I thought about what I read. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom.